Welcome to the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where you will learn top strategies from world-class real estate investors, both large and small. Why not? Tune in and get started today.
Buy a home and you buy the ugly duckling on the block, right? So all the houses are nice around it. You buy that piece of junk that sits in the middle of that neighborhood, right? You rehab it, make it nice, right? You're already in a good financial position. And if that area is appreciating like crazy, there were some areas in Seattle and LA and Dallas, Texas that were seeing literally 20% increases in their values, right? Could you imagine being on one of those streets where the average home was selling for 400,000? You bought the house for 220 because it was dilapidated. You put 100 grand in it, we're 320 in it, and now 2 years later it's worth 550.
Hey, what's up, all of my real estate peeps? This is Brian Lucier with another episode of the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where we dive into real estate, where we believe dealing in multifamily and real estate is the best asset class out of all types of investments. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a first for you today. Today on the show, we have our first double header. We've got two guests. Our guests' skill sets dovetail to work together as a complete system to creating success in real estate. Guest number one's niche has been in the 55 plus community since 2019, where he chose to focus on serving the 55 plus market after personally navigating the complexities of finding senior living accommodations and dealing with handling probate for his parents. This experience gave him a deeper understanding of the unique challenges seniors and their families face during these transitions. It inspired him to build a solution to offer tailored services that provide the support and the expertise needed during these significant life changes. Guest number two is currently the co-founder of EZ Real Estate Platform, which is an online hybrid offer site that expanded their vision nationally in April of 2024, and over the past 2 years has sold over $54 million in real estate, now resides in 40 states. That is amazing. Our second guest also has been in the mortgage industry for 20 plus years, well versed in how to do this. As a mortgage banker, he currently sits on a board for a nonprofit organization called Hopeletics that serves underprivileged children play youth sports in the community where he currently resides. He's also the father of 7 children and grandchildren, 10 in total, and still finds time to coach girls softball throughout the year, as he currently now resides in Wilmington, North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, all of my real estate peeps, it is my pleasure to welcome to the show guest number one, lead principal and broker at East Point Properties, Mr. Kevin Rich, and guest number two, co-founder of the EZ Real Estate Platform and board member of Hopeletics, Mr. Dave Elkins. Kevin, Dave, welcome to Why Not Real Estate.
Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate being here with you today.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the opportunity.
My pleasure. And this is exciting for me because I've never had the chance to interview two people at the same time. So I'm going to jump right in because I imagine we're going to get twice the double. What was that Wrigley Spearmint gum ad? Double the flavor, double the fun. Well, I think that's where we're going to be today. So let's jump right in. So we'll go guest number one, guest number two through the platform. So Kevin, you're in the hot seat first. Can you tell us a little bit about what you used to do before getting into real estate?
Well, I worked for telecom, but got my license way back in '04 and just used it part-time. And then over the last 5 years, really try to transition into, the 55 plus community. I've been doing that now, and focused in on a lot of solutions for people that are dealing with the seniors in transition. And that's kind of how I stumble across the easy real estate offer.
So before we get to Dave, I want to ask a few questions there. I'm sorry for the loss of your parents, but it seems like that's how you stumbled upon all of this.
Yep.
So you came from corporate professional into now creating this niche to help families through this transitional time.
Mhm.
Is this all that you do now, or are you still in corporate America?
I'm still working part-time.
So you're working part-time,
Right,
and this is now a passion of yours
right,
that you're moving forward.
right. I'm focused on converting it to this full-time within the next maybe 12 to 16 months.
Okay, okay. Well, I think that is admirable, and I'm going to turn the spotlight over to Dave now. Dave, mortgage banker for 25 years. What did you used to do before becoming involved in real estate?
I don't know if it's just because I'm getting old, Brian. I don't even remember what I did before I did this, honestly. I think as a kid, I was a salesperson, I think, for a, a car dealership, I think, before I got into the mortgage business. Um, I had children young, so it was right to work, and I shifted from those couple years in the auto industry into the mortgage business, and obviously from the mortgage business that led me into real estate investing. And I think in my time now, I've owned 200 or 300 homes that we've bought, flipped, done everything with. A couple years ago, almost 3 years ago, my wife looked at me and said, "We're selling this house and we're heading south." I had grown up and we had lived in the suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio our whole life, and we just said no more snow and we had to move south. But yeah, before, God, it's so long ago, I don't even remember most of what happened then.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions now. So you started off in sales, which I honestly believe everything starts off with sales, even if you're doing a nail salon or cutting hair or whatever it is,
Yeah.
there's some sales interaction with people. So in your from sales of cars to transition to the banking industry, what influenced you to think? I mean, you mentioned hundreds of homes. What was that moment, or what influence did you have in your life that made you think real estate could be something that you could do?
Well, I was I was helping investors all the time finance their properties. And when you're helping investors, and you don't get me wrong, even residential people just buying their first home, first time home buyers, but you sit there and you look at a HUD on a few investor homes and you go, wait a minute, they bought this thing for 140, sold it for 350. You start seeing stuff like that and you're like, I could do this. Well, it's not as easy as you think. And, I've learned the hard way on, multiple investments. And then you're always, you're playing the times, right? I mean, did you really want to be buying property the end of '06, beginning of '07? I was, so in buying a bunch of it. And then you had '08 come, right? So, for me, you know, I look at my life as just I've enjoyed what I've done. And my newest version of me, I can't be more happy about with the launch of the Easy Real Estate platform. So for me, I'm doing what I love. I do what I want to do, you know.
So you're sitting there, you're closing these documents, looking at the HUD, the numbers are speaking for themselves. They say the proof is in the pudding, and here the writing is on the wall or on the desk, as it would be. So that was that spark. Were there any other influences that made you think, hey, maybe real estate might be something?
Um, no, if I'm being honest, not really. I saw it from a financial perspective only. And maybe it's because I was, literally on the financing portion of it. But, I was lucky enough to have a buddy of mine who had been a contractor since he got out of high school. So it was easy for me to partner with him. And as things moved forward, it it was just, a process. And I enjoyed it and did it for many, many, many years. And, would I go back into it again today? No, not at my age, not where I'm at. But, you know, I always believe deep in my heart that a real estate investment is so much stronger, in my opinion, than any other investment. You always have a tangible item there. You know, I'm sure a lot of us have invested in Bitcoin or, a stock Enron that maybe not have done so well, and that's money lost, right? Usually with your property, you're safe, you're sound, and I like that. I like what that has to offer.
So you mentioned you had a friend in college that was a contractor doing
Right
that
out of high school.
right out
So
of high school.
yeah, right out of high school, he became a contractor. His father did it, he did it. So it made it easy for me to, get him to do all the work on the properties and things like that. So I didn't have to go worry about that stuff myself when I was buying property.
So I'm sure there must have been some conversations. I mean, he's your buddy from high school. He's
Mhm.
talking about real estate, telling you XYZ. You're talking about bankers. So there must have been some going back and forth there to maybe, fan that ember a little bit into a small flame, and then, the paper on the desk. So there were a couple different pieces to that puzzle that came together that gave you that confidence to pull the trigger on the first deal.
Oh yeah, no, there's no doubt. I mean, no doubt.
So, Kevin, I'm going to shift the spotlight over to you. Your story starts with the probate of your parents. Were there any influences as you were growing up that led you to think maybe real estate could be an obtainable investment strategy?
Yeah, I had some family members that are basically buy and hold investors, and they've done really well in their life. Great lifestyle because of it. Um,
What kind of properties were they buy and hold?
Multifamily, anything from two families, duplexes up to small, maybe 30, 40 unit complexes.
And were these like cousins, uncles, aunts?
Both cousins and uncles. My uncle started it back in the 1960s, and then it transitioned to my cousins, and they've been growing it ever since. So just definitely something I've watched and been inspired by.
So your uncle is holding apartments,
Hmm.
duplexes up to 30s and 40s. Sounds like a seasoned investor.
Oh,
Hands
sure.
that business off to his children, which are your cousins.
Hmm.
So I'm curious, what did the summer family barbecues sound like when Uncle Landlord showed up? What kind of stories kind of piqued your interest there?
Yeah, yeah, he never took a break from it. He just was living it 24/7. I remember some when we were kids, we were down the Cape, and we'd go out for a ride with him, and he'd be looking at different properties and telling us about the pluses and minuses. And yeah, it's boring back then, but it's funny to look back and think about it now.
So you were being fed a glass of water with a fire hose and
Yeah.
didn't even know the value of the water. I mean, how old were you when this was all happening?
Oh, 10, 12. 13, 14 years old, all the way through, through high school. We used to get out there on a regular basis.
But nice to be exposed to it early.
Oh yeah.
So later in life, it was like, oh, I've heard this. This is a movie I've seen before.
Oh yeah.
I know what happens next, and I know where this is going to go, because you had someone in your family who was walking through that minefield,
Yeah.
probably stepped on a few landmines, and was able to yell back to you and say, "Hey, if you get this far, do this, don't do that."
Right, right. And my cousin's like that today. He is a wealth of knowledge. He just because he grew up in it directly. And yeah, so I've always bounced a number of things off of him, and it's been great. He's a great resource.
So, were there any other influences as you were growing up that led you to think real estate was an investment you could do?
Well, not really, just kind of watching it from a distance and doing some reading and look, some of the books that, everybody reads, the Robert Kiyosaki books and all that. It's out there.
We'll get there.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Actually, yeah, I love it when I get book recommendations, because you can probably tell I'm a nerd.
Yeah, yeah.
My Kiyosaki section is over there. So you never know. When I started the show, I only had two racks, two rows, and I'm already starting a fourth. So yeah, I'll definitely get there. I'll come back to that for sure. So humble beginnings sounds like something anyone could pick up. Most of the time I've heard on the show, it's an uncle and aunt, a father, a relative, or you're not the first person who went to school with someone who did this. I've had other people on the show who partnered with schoolmates out of college. You were out of high school. So it's very obtainable that someone, just your normal average person, could get off the sidelines and into the game and into real estate. So Kevin, how many years have you been an investor in real estate?
Um, since 2018. Yeah, so
6 years.
6 years, right?
Okay. And Dave, you're 25 years plus?
Oh yeah, yeah. I started in the mortgage industry in 96. I bought my first investment property in 97.
26 years.
There you go.
All
It's
right.
been a while.
The numbers served me well.
Mhm.
So let's go back to Dave on this one. We just finished up with Kevin. Dave, this is a two-part question, and I always love asking this one because it's a little time machine here. The first part of the question focuses on you. The second part of the question focuses on a newbie who would be starting out in the industry today. So the first part of the question, if you could go back 27 years, 26 years in time, what advice would you give Dave 26 years ago starting as a real estate investor? And then the second half of the question, what advice would you be giving today to a newbie who's starting out? So let's spin back the calendar and go back to Dave, 26 years. What advice do you have for yourself?
If I could go back in time, I probably would have been, I know this sounds crazy, less aggressive. There were times where, you know, uh, I put that we can do anything mode on a deal for maybe repairs, or you get into, you get into a house and you say, oh, well, it's just that one part of the foundation.
Ah,
You know what I mean? And I would probably be a less aggressive investor. Um, Maybe do a little bit more homework before I do stuff. Um, I would probably use more financing than my own physical cash.
yep.
And then for the newbie, I am going to say cash flow ROI. So if I'm looking at an investment, and that's what real estate is, it's an investment. What's my cash flow look like? And what's my return on investment? And
Excellent.
why is that so important? Well, as you've seen, the prices of homes just continually go up, right? Now, granted, rent has gone up with that gradually, right? But anymore, cash flow is is king when you have, and especially depending on the areas you're buying in and what you're buying, right? What I mean by that is, for those of you who own property, know distinctly what I'm talking about. You're not a friend in eviction court, right? You don't hold those powers that we used to hold 10 or 15 years ago, right? The courts favor tenants heavily. You need good cash flow. You need good cash flow to cover those, for instances, let's call them.
Yeah.
For those who invested through COVID, and I'm one of them, that was a tough time when you had everybody on the TV going, you don't have to pay your rent right now. you know, be the owner of those properties going, wait a minute, what do you mean you don't have to pay your rent? You know, so cash flow, return on investment, I'm okay with. Maybe my cash flow isn't the greatest at the moment, but I'm buying in an up and coming neighborhood where property values just keep growing month after month after month. And I see maybe that return on investment being really good. So maybe I'm not holding that property 5 or 10 years. Maybe I'm holding it 12 to 24 months, taking my money and moving on because the cash flow isn't the greatest.
So the red-haired child that always sits at the table when I talk to real estate investors is appreciation. Cash flow is king. Everybody says cash flow, cash flow. But you just mentioned something that in 24 months, if you hit your numbers, it's time to exit the deal.
Oh,
So
yeah.
cash flow for sure, ROI for sure, but how much, and I'm just throwing this out there, how much does appreciation play in your investment strategy today?
Well, it's huge. Like I said, depending on where you're at and what you're doing, it's it's big. I mean, you buy a home and you buy the ugly duckling on the block, right? So all the houses are nice around it. You buy that piece of junk that sits in the middle of that neighborhood, right? You rehab it, make it nice, right? You're already in a good financial position. And if that area is appreciating like crazy, there were some areas in Seattle and LA and Dallas, Texas that were seeing literally 20% increases in their values, right? Could you imagine being on one of those streets where the average home was selling for 400,000? You bought the house for 220 because it was dilapidated. You put 100 grand in it, we're 320 in it, and now 2 years later, it's worth 550.
Yeah.
So I think where you're buying, what you're doing should make the decision. I'm just a cash flow, like you said, is kind of king because cash flow makes a lot of problems go away, right? And at least minimally, it buys you time, right? Maybe
True.
you're not happy with that investment, but if it's cash flowing, is it really that bad of a thing? No, right? So yes, appreciation would be big. For me, it's more about, am I buying in the right area for the right number, and the appreciation will take care of itself
Sure.
because it's an up and coming area, or it's always done well, or it's monetarily increased over time at a particular level.
Cash flow king for sure. Appreciation. Like I've done a lot of studies. The closer you are to an urban hub, appreciation might be the factor. The further out you go, cash flow would be the factor, and somewhere in the middle is a hybrid in between, which reflects where are you buying? Where's the market that you're going to buy? What's that street? So every investor has a different answer to this
Oh
question.
yeah, absolutely.
And if I ask 10 investors, I'll get a dozen different answers, 13 different answers. If you're looking at a deal today, if you're a buyer, if your spectrum was 100% appreciation all the way to 100% cash flow, is there like a range in the middle? Are you like 20, 80%, 40, 50%? And if so, I'm assuming cash flow would be the heavy bearer. Is there a range in there?
Um, honestly, Brian, no, because I think I look at each individual investment differently. And, you know, like you said, if it's an up and coming area and my cash flow isn't that great, but I know and I got that warm and fuzzy feeling that this thing's going to appreciate, well, I'm not worried about holding it for cash flow. I just need to hold it for a particular amount of time to sell it, right? And that's where my money's at. A
Right.
perfect example was the home I sold right before I moved to Wilmington. I had bought it 3 years prior. Me and my wife were getting lazy, so we wanted a ranch. So I bought a ranch, 2,500 square foot, put about 50 grand into it. It was in the right neighborhood. It had land to it. I made $130,000 in 2 years. Where was I 2, 3 years? Where was I going to do that?
Yeah.
And I mean, if I invested in Berkshire Hathaway with Warren Buffett, I wasn't making that kind of money, right? I mean, he's got investments doing 20+%. Where was I going to make $130,000 in 2.5, almost 3 years, right? Real estate.
There's a reason I'm doing this show.
Gotcha.
So, and again, the spectrum, I get it. It doesn't really exist for you if your cash flow, depending on your market, as long as you can hold it long enough to make yourself whole, you're good. And you've also got your metric of your ROI in there. So you're not just looking at your cash flow, you're also tempering it to your ROI. Is it going to make sense to even do this deal? That sounds great. Anything else you want to add to the time machine question here for either you or the newbie?
No, I'm interested to see how Kevin approaches it, but I just no. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable with my statement. Those are the two things. Less aggressive for me, I came in pretty hot and heavy, and slow it down. Take some time, do some more research.
If I were to flip less aggressive to a positive statement, I'd say more cautious.
Probably a better statement, yes.
Um, and leverage the financing, absolutely, for sure. So thank you. Now, Kevin, we're going to spin the spotlight over to you.
Okay.
Same question. The 6+ years you've been an investor in real estate, what advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time? And then what advice would you give to a newbie in today's market?
I wish I got started a little bit earlier, but family things, and I was coaching quite a bit my daughter's teams, and there was a limited amount of time. So, but if I could, if I had the opportunity, I would definitely get into it a little sooner. And then for newbies, I would say there's so much distraction. There's so much coming at everybody. Try to do your research, find out where you want to be. Do you want to you want to flip? Do you want to be a buy and hold? Airbnb, whatever it is, dig into it, and then make the decision. That's what you're going to do, and stay in there, and then kind of block out all the distractions, because there's no shortage of them. All the websites and all the information that's out there. Yeah, so focus in on what you want to do. Decide what you want to do first, and then focus in on it.
So for yourself, start sooner. Now, if you were starting sooner, taking the filter from the newbie, knowing your niche, if you were starting sooner, what niche would you have done sooner?
Um, I like where I am now. I like that 55 plus because that boomer generation, you know, it's just growing. And then if I were to start sooner, it probably would have been post, uh, the 08, 09 downturn. So when some deals would have, some pretty good deals were out there in, 2010, through 12, 14. So yeah, I would have definitely want to try to take advantage of some of those opportunities that were out there at the time.
So now we're going to shift back to the newbies. Avoid
Yeah.
those distractions, know your niche,
Yeah.
don't get distracted by the bright, shiny object. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm guilty as charged. I've gone to so many of these seminars and webinars and live events where someone will get up on the stage and say, run to the back of the room and buy this program. And then you follow that rabbit trail for 6 months and say, wait a minute, I don't even want to do this. And then you get back to your roots of what you really wanted to do. And yeah, here's a question I've asked a lot. And people have asked me this question: what's the best market for real estate to be in? You guys want to take a stab at the answer on that one?
Are you talking a physical location?
If that's the answer you want to give me, yeah. What's the best real estate market to be in? There is a trick. It's a trick question, so I'll just let you know.
Apparently, because I mean, right now inventory is down across the country.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah, it's hard. So the short answer is the market you know the best.
Your backyard.
Yeah, your backyard. Or if you grew up in Texas and now live in Tennessee and you've got contacts back in Texas and know that market, a market that you know.
Right.
So, and I'm going to circle this back to the newbies to know your niche, right? Because we got that bright, shiny object. Oh, go do this technique or go do this formula or do REITs or do this or do that. And then at the end of the day, myself included, I started in my own backyard buying properties a half hour to 45 minutes away from where I slept at night. So I could learn, take care of the property. And then over time, when I built systems and operations, then I could look at, okay, well, what does this market look like? But the same rules apply. You have to understand that market. So for that newbie getting in and knowing their niche, you got to know it. And it's got to be something you're passionate about. I mean, if you don't like storage facilities, don't do storage facilities. If you love small homes, do small homes. If you like apartment buildings, do apartment buildings. And then if you put the other filters that Dave is saying, your cash flow, your ROI, pick that upcoming market. I mean, this is a good recipe for how not to shoot your own foot. So really good. This was fun having two different sides of the coin here, because now I can kind of run back and forth between, say, okay, I'm liking the best parts of this one and the best parts of this one.
when you were making reference to that speaker that you would run to the back, I remember remember Carlton sheets.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bought my Carlton sheets packet. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
240
You were,
bucks. How could
yeah,
you go wrong, right?
yeah, you're so right. Yes. Did it myself for sure.
Yeah, and then listen to those CDs in Silverado University as I drove from property to property.
Yeah.
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 So, to close out this question for the newbies again, Kevin, you had mentioned, you can get online. There's so much stuff out there. And I mean, when we all started, there weren't all these podcasts and all this other free stuff that you could find. But even though the information is free out there, vet the information, because this could be the same type of run to the back of the room. Like, I like buy and hold real estate. Kevin likes 55 community. Dave likes, I'm guessing, single family homes.
Yes,
And
yes.
here we are, three different investors, three different set of cards in our hands, and we all like the game that we're playing. So if you're out there and you're hearing this today, you don't have to follow exactly what somebody else told you to do. You can do something that you're passionate about, love what you're doing, and still make a pretty coin. And who knows, maybe even move to an island someday if that's what you want to do. Wow, this is going to be a jam-packed show. We're about a half hour in and we're on the second question. So let's keep going. We're going to stay on Kevin for this one. What is, and this is about a property specific, what's the best deal you've ever done? What type of property was it? How did you find it? How did you finance it? Kevin, take it away.
It was a hoarded situation, single family home in New Hampshire. Um, it needed a lot of work, something I didn't want to take on, and I ended up wholesaling, assigning it, and made a good assignment fee, and then made a referral fee on the listing from the listing agent in New Hampshire, that friend of mine that listed it. So yeah, it was a good quick deal and didn't get my hands dirty.
Okay, I've got some questions here. There was a single family home, you wholesaled it, and
Yeah,
you get the referral fee. So the referral fee, you're a realtor, you're a broker, is that correct?
not in New Hampshire though. So I have a friend of mine that's in New Hampshire. He listed it, and then I got the referral fee from him
So it was a
after the
wholesale.
rehab was done. Yeah, and they put it up on the market.
So you got your wholesale referral fee
Uh,
after the person who bought it sold it.
right. No, no,
Okay,
no. I got that up front from
you got that up front.
yeah.
Okay,
And then they did the renovations, put it on the market, closed, and then I got the referral fee.
got it, got it. So how did you find this deal? How did, as a wholesaler, it is a great question. How did you find your deal?
This was to a senior living advisor that I had contact with. So
So,
she referred me to the owner, and just put the deal together, and we were going to try to try to do a seller financing. That didn't work out. We tried a couple of different things, but it ended up being the best way to do it was assign it to some flippers, and they did their thing and had it ready in about 5 months.
so this came to you through your network.
Correct.
You knew a senior living advisor. So here you are, you're in this space,
Right.
you're becoming well known, you're becoming reputable because you solve problems, you offer solutions.
That's it. Yep.
So your person in your network had this situation. Probably you were the first name that popped into her head because you'd established this brand as the person who can solve and create solutions for 55 plus communities.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm sure that you were not shy getting that message out there.
No, I haven't been. I've been reaching out to probate and estate planning attorneys, LLR attorneys, senior living advisors, paralegals at all these law firms. Yeah, no, it's just building the network. Um, that's the way to do it. That's how you're going to get those referrals.
Yep, they coined the phrase, your network is your net worth,
Yeah,
and you're
absolutely.
building those relationships every day, which is
Mm,
banking coin.
yeah.
You know, what did I not ask? What was your referral fee on that one?
Referral fee was 35% of the list price, of the selling price, I should say.
That is a nice return for a wholesaler.
Yeah.
So through your network, you make a few phone calls, tried to negotiate seller finance. That wasn't on the table. So you wholesaled it off to a rehabber who did
Right.
his gig within 5 to 6 months. And if it's okay to ask, don't give me addresses or anything. What was the 35% of the sales price number that you cleared a check for?
So the on the listing when it sold after it was rehabbed,
What's your walk away net?
all told, it was 23,750.
23,750.
Right.
And how many hours or weeks or months of work did you have to put in to earn that?
With that particular property, maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 hours. But then I think if you go back and you take a look at all the networking and all the emails and events that I went to, networking events, to make these connections, um,
So
yeah, put a few more hours on there.
let's say it was 20 hours to do this one deal. Because if we factored in all of those networks that you
Yeah.
did, then we'd be looking at all the money that you've made
Right,
since you've
right,
been
yeah,
doing
yeah.
this.
But
So if I were to isolate this one deal, like anybody is going to have to build their network, make those relationships, get your brand out there. That's paying your dues. So
yep.
to the point where you paid your dues, 10 hours. Oh my God. I got to do the math on this one. This one's going to be fun. And
$2,300 an hour.
$2,300 an hour. Thank you. It was moving the decimal point, right?
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
So, wow,
There's the finance guy
2,300
right
bucks
there.
an hour. Gee, why would you not do that?
Right.
But again, I don't want someone to hear that story and say, okay, I'm going to go out and be a wholesaler. Because how many years, 10 hours to do the deal, how many years to build the network? 6
Yeah.
years,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So
Yeah.
you pay your dues to become that, who's the person who could solve my problem, to have that brand in someone's head. You got to be out there hitting the bricks and making that happen. All right, really nice deal. 10 hours, my God. Okay, this one I got to do. So 10 hours, 2,375 bucks an hour times 2,000 hours a year if you take a 2-year vacation. That is $4.7 million a year. That's staggering. Okay, let's not get people too excited here and have them run to the back of the room. That's not the intention. Okay, Dave, let's hand the Indian talking stick over to you.
Well, I don't have a story like that, I can promise you. But I do have bought a home in Avon Lake, Ohio, and we bought it for 205. We put about 60,000 in it, and we sold it 2 weeks later for 375.
Nice.
So
One
our rehab time was about 6 weeks.
$110,000 in 6 weeks.
Correct.
So
We owner financed it at 1% a month. So we had less than $3,000 in finance cost. And my my son was the realtor. So, we did pay out a 6% commission on it.
that's fine. So close to 20,000 a week on that deal.
Yeah, I mean, when all is said and done, yes.
He said humbly, "Oh yeah, it was no big deal. It was only 20,000 a week."
Well, again, I didn't have to do any of the work. I had, my buddy who did all the contracting work. He did it all. So,
So that's still over $1 million a year if you did deals like that.
yeah, I mean, I'd love to say they all come out like that, but they don't. You know, you'll have the ones where you put in too
Oh, yeah.
much money and you're struggling to just break even. That's the truth. I can't tell you how many times I've bought a property, they open up a wall and say, oh, all the electrical's got to be done, right? And then you're like, okay, well, I was not thinking that. I made the joke with you earlier about the foundation. Oh, it's just the one side. Then you find out it's three. 8 turns into $24,000. So, again, we're back to what do we tell the newbie? Do your homework, know what you're buying,
Oh, yeah,
understand it. And that's,
absolutely.
you don't fall into those mistakes I made.
So the risk, the reward, every investment has a risk.
Yep.
You stated at the beginning of the show, real estate is a tangible, you can look at it, you can touch it, it's a real asset. It's not going to evaporate like crypto, coin, or some stock or mutual fund. The property will still be there. And if it's not, that's what insurance is for. So I just love real estate as a game and as an investment. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. And I'm biased because I see what it's been able to do in my life. I see the benefits in yours, Dave and Kevin. And we're solving problems and creating homes for families, which for me, I'll do all day long. I love that part of what we do. Very good on that. Trying to think if I missed anything. Purchase of 205, rehab at 60. You didn't lift anything but a phone. You paid 6% out. You made 110K minus the 6%, 20,000 a week in 6 weeks. Well, 1875, 18,000 a week. That's still pretty good, I think. When your average college student graduating might be making 45,000 a year, plus having 200, 300, 400,000 in debt. That's a gut punch. All right, let's keep going here. This is fun. So, Dave, we're on you, so let's continue. What's the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome as a real estate investor, and how did you solve it?
Me, and I don't know if I ever have. So I was my biggest hurdle because, as I told you earlier in this thing, um, being aggressive hurts sometimes. And, you know, we all got to navigate times, you know. I had bought 15 properties off a Chase at the beginning of '07.
Oh, God.
And think about that. 8 months later, my properties were worth probably half of what I bought them for. And, you know, for everybody, the hurdle question is difficult because, could we call my hurdle education? Could we call it aggressiveness? Could we call it stupidity? Not sure. So, for me, hurdle, me, understanding what you have, when you have it. None of us can predict the future, right? So, you got to take your best guess. So for me, without question, it was me. How did I get over it? Honestly, I don't know that I ever did. I stayed aggressive all the time to the detriment of me. And, you know, eh, I'm not a person that would say that I should be coaching the up and coming youth. Let's put it that way. Because of my aggressive tone when I do investing. Um, but I can clearly share the fails, right? Where, you buy a home thinking you know something you don't know, right? And there's some cockiness to that you have to understand is not good for you. Um, so for me, hurdles was probably knowledge, right? Knowledge and aggressiveness. So thinking I knew more than I did, and then being aggressive with that knowledge. So if I'm talking to the newbie like you seem to like to shift to, gotta know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, take the time to get somebody that knows what they're doing to tell you what it is.
Very insightful. Thank you for that, Dave. Kevin, Same question. What's the biggest hurdle you've had as a real estate investor, and how did you solve it?
Oh boy. I think just dealing with closings a lot of times. I just think probably some things that I just didn't deal with up front. Um, and I don't know. I now I think I do a much better job of making sure everything's prepared and ready for closing date. I think, uh, and I've learned from my mistakes, basically.
Give us an example. What was a what was something that you hit the wall and it's like, oh no, I'm never going to let this happen again.
Well, I'm working with one right now. It's a condo and it's a condo association. Dave, you probably know how this is all going to play out, but condo association that really fell apart. It's a small condo development, 4 units in it, and the gal that took over the is now the president. She doesn't know what she's doing, and that's okay. I mean, no, not many people do when they take on that position, but the condo questionnaire and all that, she's just really stumbling through it, and it's just going to hold up the process. Um, I wish I was a little more upfront with her and try to get a little bit more information sooner on when the property was first listed, or even before then, to kind of help her out. So that's just another example of just some of the stuff that I have to deal with prior to closing. And I like to think I'm doing a better job now than I did a few years back.
So, what's that light bulb or that flag, red or green, that pops up? I mean, you've been doing this for a while,
Yeah.
so experience would tell you, okay, that might be something I have to look at. Do you have like a Spider-Man tingly sense or
It's
something?
just a gut feeling, and get after it, and don't hold off. Get after it as soon as you can.
So if there's something in your peripheral and there's a closing, it's like, wait a minute, this isn't peripheral
Yeah.
anymore. This has got to be front and center.
Right. Get after it now before it comes back and bites you later.
Yeah, excellent.
One of the things I thought I'd just throw out there, we were talking about dealing with newbies. Once that newbie has figured out his or her spot and where they want to go with it, and they start to do some research and stuff, I think maybe at some point you want to take on a mentor or a coach. I think that'll get you to where you want to be much quicker. Um, and
So no,
I've taken that. I've done that myself.
so just to condense this for that newbie or even for a seasoned guy, because I still look for mentors and coaches.
Right.
Know your niche first, then find a coach specifically.
Right. Right.
Like if, say, I'd play baseball. If I'm a pitcher, I want a pitching coach. If I want to bat better, I need a batting coach. So depending on my niche, I could be in the game of real estate, but what part of the game, and then get the right coach and the right
Abs-
mentor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Once you figure out where you want to be in the real estate world, then you can start to look at coaches or mentors, um, and that will help you tremendously.
Which is a perfect segue to our next question. Kevin, we got the spotlight on you, so we'll stay there. Is there a book you can think of that had the biggest impact on you as a real estate investor?
Actually, I have it right here, and I use it as a reference guide, not so much as a book, but um, what every real estate investor needs to know about cash flow and 36 other financial measures by Frank and Ellie. Great resource.
Can you hold it up so we can see it?
Let's see if we got.
It looks like a mountain. There we
There we
go.
go. Get my head
All right.
back there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let me see if I go this way, if it works. Man, I don't know what's going on with the screen,
Yeah,
but
I wonder if
there it
I
is.
have that one back there because it looks familiar.
But it's a great resource. It's a reference guide more than something you would just read chapter after
Excellent.
chapter. But yeah, that's one I would recommend.
We'll definitely have that in the show notes. And is there a second book that you can think of that had an
Oh man,
impact on
well,
you?
have to look over my quick library. Yeah. This actually two. One through Jameel Damsey, wholesaling group. I've read his book. It's a short, easy read. Um, and he talks about his agent outreach program, which I'm using now. And then the other one I like is Bigger Pockets book by a book on flipping houses by
Ah,
Jay Scott. Jay Scott, that's another good one.
good stuff.
Yeah. So wholesaling, flipping, and knowing your numbers. That the cash flow book by Frank Gallinelli. Yeah, Gallinelli.
Gallinelli. Perfect. I'll be able to look him up and get a link.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, same question to you. Is there a book that had an impact on you as a real estate investor?
I'm not a big book guy, believe it or not. Um, but and I'm actually trying to look it up right this second. I did read one that I liked, um, Dean Graziano,
Yeah.
and it was called Millionaire Success Habits. And then the only other book that I could say really got me, um, and it was just recently I read it, was Warren Buffett's, oh
S-
God.
Snowball?
No, it was Investment Strategies for the World's Greatest Investor.
Excellent.
Well, those were the two.
So, Millionaire Success Habits and Warren Buffett's Investment Strategies. Interesting. Those sound like mindset books rather than specific
Yeah,
real estate. So,
yeah, that's why I said I'm not a big book reader. Never have been. Uh, I watch lots of videos.
uh,
Yeah.
what, what type of videos pique your interest?
Um, Usually, honestly, just short, simple. Uh, I've watched a ton of Tony Robbins stuff. And again, we're back in the mindset stuff, right? Trying to make your mindset right. Um, there's so much stuff that gets in the way nowadays, from finances to life to situations. I just think trying to keep your head right is, to me, more more of the plow that keeps you going, you know?
Really good responses from both of you gentlemen. Thank you. So, Dave, we're on you. We'll stay on you. What's next for you, and why not get started today?
Well, what's next for me, I'm hoping, is retirement at some point here.
What does
Um,
retirement look like for you?
yeah. Uh, it looks very good if my most recent endeavor makes its way to where I want it. So, and I'm hoping we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but um, yeah, I mean, I'm 54, so I'm looking at that, you know, let's let's take a step back, chill out, enjoy grandkids and things like that in life. And, unfortunately, those things take money, and, you have to make it to be able to enjoy that.
Well, it's your spot right now. You said possibly you wanted to talk about it. What is it?
So, roughly about 7 years ago, I started a company called the Easy Real Estate Offer Platform. That website was to basically work in conjunction with competing with discount real estate brokers. Now, as an investor, let me just ask you a simple question. In your time of selling your properties, what do you think you've spent in real estate commissions to sell your properties?
Oh God.
If you just had to take a wild guess, what would you think it would be?
You're gonna be a little surprised at this answer. Let's go at 6%, okay? I paid 480,000.
Okay. What if I told you I could get you the money that you would have gotten anyway, probably more, and you wouldn't have paid a dime of that 480,000 to sell your home? Homes, plural, right? And better yet, what if I told you you would have done it quicker, faster, and not had to even be a part of the transaction until it just came time to sign?
I think I would need some Prilosec at this moment.
Okay. So, a lot of people don't understand this, and I guess since we're talking on an investor platform, right? That 5 or 6% that you spend at the end of whatever you do,
Yeah.
okay, and you look at your bottom line return on investment, and if you're, and this is just my opinion, obviously you're right, 12 different investors would give you 12 different answers.
Yeah.
But as an example, do you know what the average builder makes on a home after everything's paid out?
20%?
No,
You got me.
it's 7.5.
Oh God.
By the time they pay agents, they pay, their financing on average, all that type of stuff, cost of money, everything. Bottom line, about 7.5%. If you're king and you do a ton of business and you do it well, you probably make 15 to 20%. Is that fair?
I would hope. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if you're doing business consistently, don't give me your one time or your 3 times that you crushed it. If you took your average,
Hmm.
would you say 15 to 20% was super solid?
I would I would get out of bed for that, I guess.
Yes. Okay. So at 20%, you're talking third, a third of your income, right? That's what that 6% represents, right? A third is 18%, correct? So if you could have put that $500,000 back in your pocket right now, where would you be? Huge, right? Now, think about this in just general terms, okay? I buy a house, I'm flipping the house, I do the work. A lot of investors do their own work on the property, right? Now they're selling it. Now they got to bring an agent in. Even if they're an agent, they're usually paying the buyer's agent in most cases, right? So they're still having to cough up money. But if you didn't have to worry about that ever again and know that you were still going to draw the money, what kind of a benefit is that to you as an investor?
Well, is there a website where I might be able to find that answer?
There is. And
Just happen to have it. Yeah.
that's the easy real estate offer. We've got a short version where it's just easy, the letters easy, reoffer.com. And basically we're approaching 500 agents that have become members in roughly the last 18 months. We're now in 40 states. The question I'm sure on everybody's mind is, well, Dave, if you're not charging anything to sell it, where's everybody making money, right? And it's based on buyer premium, okay? And before you say to me, well, Dave, why would a buyer pay it? The buyer's always paid it. It's just never been said, right? The buyer brings all the money to the table and always has. right? And when a seller goes to sell their home, they only care about what that net sheet says, right? What am I getting? And they usually are figuring in their net sheet their real estate commissions. Okay. But now we found a way to incorporate that to pay buyer's agents, listing agents, my site. I don't do this as a hobby, right? And do it within compliance. Everybody gets paid. Sellers save money. Buyers actually get to buy a home without that. What's the final and best theory, right? How many times have you gone out to buy a home, get back, write the offer, send it over? You immediately get told, we're in multiple offer situations. Give me your final and best.
Yeah.
And you have no idea what to tell your client or as an investor, how high you should go to buy that property. My system takes that all away because it's 100% transparent. Everybody sees the very minute up to the minute highest offer on the property at that moment. As a seller or as an investor, you have the right to accept, deny, or negotiate anything that's brought to you. And it's done right online.
So on that website, is there like a demo or a video or something that people could watch it? And
Well, there we have adjoining sites, easy to get certified sites like that that I can send to you that you can post in the podcast that will walk them through it. Give them investor success stories, give it seller success stories, agents saying why they use it, things of that nature. We have uh we have recently closed transactions where they could see where the bidding started, where it ended, what the buyer's premium was on it, what the commissions that were made by agents. We have things of that nature on the website to show how all of that works.
so that's your retirement project.
It is, yes.
All right. 40 states.
We are in 40 states now, yes.
Hawaii?
I am not, no.
Bummer.
Not Hawaii, not yet. I mean,
No.
it's kind of the, I don't want to say the oddball states because no state should be oddballs, but I believe it or not, we're in Alaska, but we are not in South Dakota, North Dakota, Kansas, West Virginia, Hawaii, Mississippi. I'm trying to think where else I'm not.
Well, that means there's room for improvement.
I think Montana might be another one. But we're growing. It's a different approach. It's very compliant to all the new NAR rules, the National Association on the lawsuit. So it's completely transparent, so very compliant.
All right, definitely. I'll get the links on that. Make sure we can share it with our listeners. Hopefully, we can get you to that warm, sunny place you want to be.
Yes.
Kevin, we're going to shift it back over to you. What's next for you, and why not get started today?
Well, I've been working with Dave since like February. I'm a rep for Easy Offer, and so trying to get the word out. I'm using it as a tool myself. I have a property currently listed in Haverhill, Massachusetts, and so it's my first time using it. So it's a case study. Besides, yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, seeing how that all plays out. It's been on for a few days now, but yeah, and then just continue to grow my what I'm doing now in the 55 plus market. Can continue to build out the network and grow it, and then I'm looking to bring some people on probably in the next 6 to 12 months.
Excellent, excellent stuff. Really great stories today.
Yeah.
So here's the curveball that was not in your show notes. Kevin, we're with you, so we'll stay there. Dave, this will give you a couple minutes to think about it. Kevin, on today's show, what question should I have asked you today that I didn't?
Mm, I don't know. I think you covered everything because we went back in time for me and what I'm doing now and where I want to go. I think you kind of covered everything. I think you did a good job, Brian.
Oh, well, thank you kindly. You guys both did a great job. All right. Dave, coming at you. What
Man,
question
Kevin,
should I have
Kevin,
asked?
you were supposed to digest on that to give me a couple minutes to think.
No,
I
actually,
get,
very good because now we've got him fresh.
Yeah,
So,
uh,
Dave, what's a
uh,
question I should have asked you today that I did not?
well, I don't know if it's really a you should have. I think, and because we're on the investment role, maybe only because of my background, maybe ask me about, is there some decent financial products for investors out there or newbie investors, right? That, or maybe an investor that's trying to get into it, but credit issues or can't prove income, or think about a lot of the investors that are contractors, right? I can't tell you how many times a contractor has come to me and their tax return shows, 746,000 in gross sales as a landscaper, and their net profit was $41.16 by the time they wrote everything off, right?
Hmm.
But yet they want to buy investment property, right? How do you deal with something like that? So if there was any question you could ask, and it was just to me in particular, would be what kind of financial products could you use for, maybe a newbie investor? But I can't think of really anything that stood out, you know. And for four people like that, just to let you know, there are products such as DSCRs, which is a debt service coverage ratio product where we just need the rent to cover the payment. We don't even look at tax returns and things of that nature. So there is no income verification. The property stands on its own. So with your down payment and credit, basically. So for me, maybe just that question. That's it.
Well, that was a really good question that I didn't ask. And now that it's on the table, wherever you are, wherever you're hearing this, whatever banks are in your neighborhood, shop around. I mean, I have a good friend who, while he was doing investing, I think he had a spreadsheet of over 60 different lending institutions and just plugging in the numbers of what was available. So, all the way back to Kevin paying your dues and building your network and everything that you need to do. Okay, building that network of bankers and knowing who's got what product, who's good for a rehabber, who's good for commercial, who's good for whatever it is, the debt service income ratio, whatever the product is, and to ask those questions, make those relationships. So, gentlemen, I think we have had a smashing good time here.
Yep.
Dave, we're on you right now, so let's keep the spotlight there. How can how can our viewers on today's show get in touch with you? How would you like them to reach out?
Well, they can get in touch with me literally. I hide from nobody, even by cell phone. And that number is 440-477-5652. My email address is Dave, DAVE, at easy to get certified. So the letters easy, TOGETCERITIFIED. So easy to get certified.com.
All right, cell and email. Kevin, if our
Yes.
guests want to get in touch with you today and possibly find out more about the 55 plus community or whatever you may have in your wheelhouse,
Yeah.
how should they reach out and find you today?
My number is 781-627-5060. And anything related to Easy Offer, I'm a rep here in the Northeast. It's Kevin at easytogetcertified.com.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, not bad for my first double hitter here. This is This is the first. It was a little bit of fun for me to jump back and forth, and I really enjoyed this show, being able to get, an A, B on a question, and then, compare the notes back and forth and come up with that hybrid in the middle. That's always an interesting thing for me to do with my team, with my businesses, and to do it here on a show for the first time. I think I might try this again. This was fun. So, Kevin, any last words before we sign off?
Brian, I thought that was a great show. I really appreciate you having us on. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And
Thank you
Dave?
so much.
No, the same. I truly enjoyed myself. I literally, it's funny, the questions you asked, I'm thinking to myself, God, I haven't been asked anything like this on a on a show, on a podcast. So for me, it was different. It was unique. I really liked it. It was nice.
You had fun?
Oh yeah, no, I mean usually, being in the business as long as I have, I'm usually being asked about financial products or about the easy offer site, right? So it was nice to have something different, and I really appreciate it. I liked it. I
Yeah.
liked it.
Well, it was my honor to have you both on. I'll really look forward to getting this episode launched, getting all your information out there. And this was fun, my first double hitter. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of my real estate peeps, this is Brian Lucier from the Why Not Real Estate Podcast signing off, and we'll see you on the next one.